we are diving deep into a really powerful and honestly pretty challenging modern commentary on the book of Ezekiel. Now, if you're familiar with this area of biblical literature, you know the psychological and ethical themes here are incredibly dense. They paint a very vivid, sometimes stark picture. Today, we're going to explore how a mandate that's literally thousands of years old is being interpreted through a modern lens as a radical, urgent call for everyday compassion. But right out of the gate, before we even touch on that compassion, we have to look at the stakes. And wow, they are intense. His blood will I require at thine hand. The source material doesn't ease us in at all. It drops us straight into this high-stakes, life or death scenario. We aren't talking about mild, friendly advice here. This is about ultimate, inescapable accountability. So how does an ancient text jump from a basic spiritual warning to literally having someone else's blood on your hands?
Well, let's figure that out. Part 1. The Role of the Watchman.
To get the full picture, we have to look at the exact wording that sets this whole commentary in motion. In Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 17, we see this incredibly direct command, "I have made thee a watchman." The commentary we're breaking down today zeroes right in on this dynamic. Notice how it's not a volunteer gig, it's a designated role. The individual is drafted to be a messenger, essentially a direct conduit for a warning from a higher power.
Now, historically, if you picture a watchman, you probably see a literal sentry standing on a high stone wall, keeping a lookout for invading armies. But the author of our source shifts this whole visual. They redefine the watchman as an observer in our everyday life, someone who receives what they call daily promptings in their heart, and is then tasked with delivering those vital warnings. It's a total shift from physical, outward defense to inward spiritual intervention. Which brings us to part 2, the consequences of silence. What actually happens when this watchman sees the danger but just decides to keep quiet? Look at the brutal logic laid out in verse 18. If the warning is withheld, the person in danger still faces their consequence, right? They die in their iniquity. But here is the terrifying twist. The silent watchman is held directly responsible. The author makes sure we don't miss this. Failing to warn someone means their blood is figuratively and spiritually staining your own hands. So, let's look at the stark contrast between these two outcomes. On one side, a warning is withheld, and the result is catastrophic, blood on the watchman's hands. But on the other side, if the warning is actually given, even if the listener completely ignores it, the watchman's duty is fulfilled, and their own soul is clear. The author is stressing that your ultimate accountability is based purely on the act of delivering the message, not on whether you actually manage to change the person's mind. And there's a really compelling nuance here. If God did not place you as a watchman, it is different. You are free. Basically, the ordinary, everyday bystander doesn't carry this massive, dangerous burden. The author points this out to highlight the unique weight placed on those who actually feel spiritually called. If you're the one feeling that inner prompting to act, you just can't play the ignorant bystander card. You're on the hook. Let's move on to part 3, the danger of judgment, where we see how this ancient logic applies to us today. Let's be real. Why do modern watchmen fail? The author argues it's almost never out of actual malice. It's usually self-righteousness. We fall into these incredibly common behavioral traps. We distance ourselves from people we paint as bad. We judge others, we label them, and we conveniently ignore those daily inner nudges to step in. It is just so much easier and cleaner to avoid a messy situation entirely than to actually get involved. And here is the tragic irony the source highlights. The very people who feel called to this spiritual duty are often the ones who isolate themselves the most. We are rather judging the people that we should have compassion over. Choosing to judge someone from afar, that's totally passive. Having compassion and actually issuing a warning, that's active. The author is deeply critical of us choosing comfortable, pristine isolation over the gritty, uncomfortable duty of actually engaging with people. I mean, the source literally pulls no punches here against spiritual complacency. Sitting back in your comfortable armchair just assuming you have a straight golden ticket to reward simply because of a title you hold is a complete dereliction of duty. Do not say you are Christian too much and think you are going to heaven straightforward. Self-righteousness, according to this text, is the ultimate enemy of the true watchman. All right, part 4, a call for compassion. Watch how the author brilliantly pivots from these harsh realities into a deeply pastoral plea. Because who exactly are we supposed to be warning and helping? It's the marginalized, the exact people that society, and yeah, sometimes the self-righteous among us, just throw away. The folks deemed wicked or undeserving. The author uses this incredibly evocative visual phrase, the dirty behind the village.
The argument is that these vulnerable groups absolutely do not need our judgment. They desperately need intercession, prayer, and real sacrifice.
And this forms the core theological argument of the entire commentary. They are part of the world. They are children of God. They need us. The author is emphasizing universal dignity here. The mandate isn't to stand up high on a spotless wall and yell at the dirt down below. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and doing the exhausting, messy work of actually helping.
It really comes down to a choice between two completely different paths. Human instinct naturally leads us towards selfish means, judging, isolating, freezing ourselves off from anything uncomfortable. But the spiritual duty demands the exact opposite. It requires the warmth of integration, active prayer, and the sacrifice of our own comfort. The visual contrast here between cold, distant isolation and the vibrant, tangled warmth of shared humanity really couldn't be any clearer.
As we wrap up this explainer, the author shatters the fourth wall with a direct, climactic challenge to all of us. How many people have you watched over with the warnings of the Lord? This isn't just a rhetorical question to brush past. It's a profound challenge to examine our own lives. Are you just judging the picture from a distance, or are you actively engaging and looking out for the people in it?
And that is our ultimate takeaway today. This commentary takes an ancient, terrifying threat about having blood on your hands and beautifully transforms it into an urgent, modern mandate for compassion. True spiritual duty absolutely requires diving headfirst into the colorful, chaotic messiness of life. It's about moving from isolation to integration. So the next time you feel that prompting, ask yourself, are you just going to stand safely on the wall, or are you actually going to get down into the mess?